I'm taking the cuffs off as soon as we're clear. 2 minutes to my transport.
You bid everything to buy me.
Why would you free me? Because no one should be in a cage. Walk with me.
The auction started at midday, when the sun was at its worst. That was deliberate. The Karev Desert Market ran its primary transactions at midday specifically because the heat made everything harder. Harder to think, harder to argue, harder to hold a position when the ground was radiating and the light was coming from everywhere at once. It was a pressure tactic as old as the market itself, and it worked, which was why it persisted. I had been in the market for 2 hours before the auction began, which meant I had been standing in the heat for 2 hours, which meant I was already past my preferred level of patience when the cage was wheeled out. My name is Darro Vance. I am, depending on the day and the job, a freight coordinator, a logistics consultant, or a transport operator in the outer territories. What I am not, officially or otherwise, is anyone involved in the kinds of transactions that the Karev Market's afternoon section was known for. I was there for a components deal on a cargo delivery. Standard, documented, boring. I was supposed to be done by noon. I was not done by noon. And so I was still there when they brought her out. She was kneeling in the cage before they had finished positioning it, which told me she had been in that position for some time and had learned that the transition was easier if you were already settled. Her hands were bound in blue energy cuffs, the kind that suppressed certain biological functions in species that had them, which I took to mean she was not simply being restrained for transport but was being actively inhibited, which was a more significant level of precaution than the average trader used, and which implied that someone, somewhere in the chain that had produced this situation, was genuinely concerned about what she was capable of. She had lavender skin and silver-white hair and eyes that were the color of the sky just before dark, that specific pale violet that looks almost gray until the light hits it. She was looking at the crowd through the bars with the expression of someone who had arrived at a particular internal position about what was happening and had decided that their primary available response was dignity. I found that expression very difficult to look away from. The auctioneer began. Velthoran female. Confirmed psionic classification. Suppressed for transport. Excellent condition. Opening bid. I did the math before he finished the sentence. Not the bid math, the other math. The math of what the suppression cuffs meant and how long the average Velthoran could sustain the inhibition before the physiological effects became medical rather than tactical. The answer, which I happened to know from a cargo route that had involved transporting Velthoran cultural materials 2 years prior, and which had required me to understand their biology enough to manage environmental controls, was not long. Days at most. The cuffs were designed for hours. She had probably been in them for longer than hours. Bid. I did not win cleanly. There were 3 other bidders, and one of them was the kind of serious that takes several rounds to extinguish. I extinguished it. The final number was higher than I had intended and lower than I was prepared to go, which is the definition of a successful bid in the wrong direction. The cage was opened. The handler started toward her with the transfer chain. Don't, I said. I said it at a volume that carried. The handler stopped. I walked to the cage myself. I crouched down to her level. She was watching me with the same expression she had worn throughout the auction. Composed, careful, absolutely giving nothing away. I'm going to take the cuffs off, I said. As soon as we're out of the market. I need you to walk with me to my transport. It's 2 minutes from here. And then you can go wherever you want to go. Do you understand? She looked at me. Why? She said. Her standard was precise and slightly formal, the kind learned from careful study. Because those cuffs are past their safe window, I said. And because no one should be in a cage. Another look. Longer this time. You paid for me, she said. I paid to end the bidding, I said. There's a difference. She studied me for a moment with those pale violet eyes that were doing the very specific work of threat assessment. I let her do it. It was the appropriate thing to be doing. 2 minutes, she said. 2 minutes, I confirmed. He stood. We walked through the market at the pace of two people who had somewhere to be and were getting there without running. I positioned myself between her and the crowd the way you position yourself between something that needs protecting and the thing it needs protecting from, which is a habit I have from years of moving valuable cargo through difficult spaces. She noticed. I know she noticed because of the small shift in how she was walking, not relaxing exactly, but recalibrating slightly, which is what people do when a variable in their assessment changes. My transport was a mid-range freight hauler, parked in the outer lot. We reached it in just under 2 minutes. I opened the side panel and found the cuff release tool I had bought from the market's medical supply vendor 30 seconds after placing the winning bid. She held out her wrists. I removed the cuffs. The release was immediate and visible, a shiver that moved through her from the wrists outward. Her skin doing something that I did not have precise language for but which was clearly the return of a function that had been absent. Her eyes, when she looked up, were more themselves than they had been, the violet deeper, the quality of her attention different in a way that was hard to specify but obvious to observe. "Where do you need to go?" said. She looked at her wrists. At the place where the cuffs had been. "North," she said. "My people are in the Northern Territory. I have a cargo run to the Northern Relay Station," I said. "I can take you to within 20 kilometers of the territory boundary. From there you would need to walk or find other transport." She looked at me. "You are going north anyway," she said. "Yes," I said. "And you would take me?" "Yes," I said. "Why are you doing this?" she said. Not the same question as in the cage. A different version, the one that comes after the immediate threat has passed and the person is trying to understand what they are actually in. I thought about how to answer it accurately. Because the right thing, I said, was available to do. And I was the one who was there. She was quiet for a long moment.